Admiral Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the starship Victory and watched Earth burn. Red flames covered the planet below like angry scars. The blue oceans that once made Earth beautiful were now hidden under thick black smoke. 3 of Earth's biggest cities were gone, just gone. Nothing left but empty holes in the ground. "Admiral, we have incoming enemy ships," Lieutenant Davis called out from his station. His voice shook with fear. Chun looked at the main screen. Dozens of dark shapes moved toward them through space. The Zirathi ships looked like giant insects. With metal wings, each one was the size of a city block. Their weapons glowed with green light that meant death for any human ship they touched. "How many do we have left?" Chun asked. 12 ships, Admiral. That's all. 12 ships against 50 Zirathi vessels. The math was simple and terrible. In 1 hour, the human race would be finished. The aliens had been hunting humans across the galaxy for 2 years. They ate everything living on the planets they conquered. Humans called them the bug ships because they looked like giant metal insects. Chun closed her eyes for a moment. She thought about her daughter Lisa back on Mars colony. At least Mars was still safe, for now. "Admiral," Davis shouted. "New contacts coming out of hyperspace." Chun opened her eyes and stared at the screen. More ships appeared, but these were different. They were long and silver, shaped like knives cutting through space. She had never seen ships like these before. "Unknown vessels, this is Admiral Chun of the Terran Defense Force. Please identify yourselves." The answer came in perfect English, but the voice sounded strange. It was too deep and had an odd echo. "Admiral Chun, this is Fleet Commander Vexter of the Calthorn Empire. We have been watching your war with great interest. The Zirathi are a threat to all life in this galaxy. We offer our help." Chun felt her heart jump. Help? After 2 years of fighting alone, someone was offering help? "What do you want in return?" she asked. "Nothing in space came free." "Only to fight beside you against a common enemy. We will discuss terms later. Right now, your people need to live through the next hour." The silver ships moved forward. They were smaller than the Zirathi vessels, but much faster. Green beams shot out from the bug ships, but the silver ships danced around them like they were playing a game. Chun watched in amazement as blue energy bolts fired from the silver ships. When they hit the Zirathi vessels, the alien ships simply came apart. Metal pieces flew in all directions. In 10 minutes, half the Zirathi fleet was destroyed. "My God," Davis whispered. "Look at them fight." The Calthorn ships moved like they could read each other's minds. They never got in each other's way. They never wasted a shot. It was the most beautiful and deadly thing Chun had ever seen. "Admiral Chun," the alien voice spoke again, "please move your ships back. We will finish this battle," Chun wanted to argue. Her people have been fighting this war for 2 years. They had earned the right to be in this fight. But she also knew when she was outclassed. "All ships, pull back to safe distance," she ordered. The rest of the battle lasted 20 minutes. When it was over, all the Zirathi ships were dead metal. Floating in space, not one Calthorn ship had been lost. "Admiral, we are sending a shuttle to your ship. Commander Vexter wishes to meet with you in person." Chun had never met an alien before. She wondered what they looked like. Were they friendly? Could humans trust them? The shuttle that docked with her ship was beautiful. It looked like it was made from liquid silver that had been frozen in the shape of a bird. When the airlock opened, Shing got her first look at humanities. New allies. Commander Vexter was tall. Very tall. He stood almost 8 feet high and had 4 arms instead of 2. His skin was pale blue and his eyes were completely black. When he moved, it was with perfect balance, like a dancer or a fighter. "Admiral Chun," he said, and his voice was the same deep echo she had heard on the radio. "It is an honor to meet a warrior who has fought so hard for her people." "Thank you for saving us," Chun replied. "But I have to ask why help humans?" Vexter's black eyes studied her for a long moment. "Because the Zirathi are a cancer in this galaxy. They consume everything and give nothing back. They have destroyed 47 worlds in the past decade. Your species is the first to fight them and survive for more than a few months. We're not that good at fighting, Chun said. We just don't know when to quit. Something that might have been a smile crossed the alien's face. Yes, we have noticed this about humans. It is a useful quality in a war like this one. Over the next few hours, Chun learned about the Galactic Defense Coalition. It was an alliance of 12 different alien species, all working together to keep peace in their part of the galaxy. The Calthrans were the military leaders of the coalition. We have been watching the Zirathi for many years, Vexler explained. They are too strong for any one species to fight alone. But together we can stop them. What do you need from us? Chun asked. Your ships are primitive, but your tactics are interesting. Humans fight in ways we have never seen before. You are? Unpredictable. The Zirathi rely on patterns and logic. Human chaos confuses them. Chun wasn't sure if that was a compliment or an insult. We propose a partnership, Vexler continued. Calthran technology combined with human tactics. We will upgrade your weapons and shields. In return, your officers will work with ours to develop new ways of fighting. It sounded too good to be true. Chin had learned to be careful of things that sounded too good to be true. What's the catch? She asked. No catch. Only the hope that together we can end this war before the Zirathi consume all life in this sector. Chun looked out the window at Earth. The fires were still burning, but her planet was still alive. Her people were still breathing. That was more than she had hoped for an hour ago. All right, Commander. Humanity accepts your offer. Vexler stood and extended one of his 4 hands. Chun shook it. His skin felt warm and dry, almost like leather. There's much work to do, the alien said. The Zirathi will regroup and attack. Again, but next time they will face humans and Calthrans fighting as one force. As Chun watched the alien commander leave, she felt hope for the first time in months. Maybe, just maybe, her species would survive this war. She didn't know that. Commander Vexler was already planning for what would happen after the war was won. She didn't know that the Calthrans had been studying human tactics not just to fight the Zirathi, but to understand how dangerous humans could be. She didn't know that helping humanity, when this war was only the first part of a much larger plan, for now Sarah Chun was just grateful that humanity was no longer fighting alone. The galaxy was a big and dangerous place, but humans had finally found friends among the stars, or so she thought. Admiral Sarah Chun walked through the corridors of New Geneva Station and smiled. 6 months ago, this place had been a burned wreck floating in space. The Zirathi had torn it apart with their weapons. Now it was alive again, rebuilt with both human and Calthran technology. The walls glowed with soft blue light that came from Calthran power systems. Human engineers worked next to tall alien technicians, fixing broken systems and building new ones. Children played in the recreation areas while their parents worked to make the station a real home again. It's beautiful, isn't it? Lieutenant Davis said as he walked beside her. He had been promoted after the war ended. Now he was her chief intelligence officer. Yes, it is, Chun replied. Hard to believe we almost lost everything. The war against the Zirathi had lasted 2 more years after the Calthrans arrived. It had been bloody and terrible, but humanity and their alien allies had won. The last Zirathi hive ship had been destroyed 3 months ago. Now humans were working with 12 different alien species to rebuild what the bugs had destroyed. Chin's own promotion had come as a surprise. The Coalition Council had made her a full admiral and put her in charge of the joint human-alien patrol fleet. She commanded 30 ships now, half human and half alien. It was an honor she had never expected. Admiral, Davis said, his voice becoming serious. We need to talk about the reports from the outer colonies. Chun stopped walking. She had been waiting for this conversation, but she had hoped it wouldn't come so soon. What kind of reports? Strange ones. Calthran ships have been visiting human colonies without permission. They say they're doing resource surveys, but they won't tell our people what they're looking for. Chun felt a cold feeling in her stomach. How many colonies? 7 so far. All of them on the outer rim, far from Earth. The colonists are asking questions, but the Calthans just say it's coalition business. They walked to Chun's office in silence. The room was a mix of human and alien design, with Earth furniture and Calthrin computer systems. Chun sat behind her desk and pulled up the reports on her screen. The pattern was clear once she looked for it. Calthrin survey teams had visited Titan Colony, New Arizona, and 5 other human worlds. They had scanned the planets with deep-core sensors and taken samples of soil, water, and air. When human officials asked what they were doing, the aliens gave vague answers about galactic security and resource management. "Have you talked to Commander Vexler about this?" Chun asked. Davis shook his head. "I tried. He says the surveys are routine and nothing for humans to worry about." "But Admiral, these aren't routine. The Calthrons are being very careful to only visit colonies that don't have big defensive systems." Sheen stared at the data for a long time. During the war, Vexler had always been direct with her. They had planned battles together, shared meals, and talked about their hopes for peace. He had never lied to her before. "Schedule a meeting with him," she said finally. "I want answers." The meeting took place 2 days later in the Coalition Command Center. The room was huge, with holographic displays showing ship movements across the galaxy. Representatives from all 12 species worked together to keep peace in their corner of space. Vexler was waiting for her when she arrived. He looked the same as always, tall and blue-skinned, with his 4 arms moving in perfect coordination. But something in his black eyes seemed different, colder. "Admiral Chun," he said with his deep, echoing voice. "It is good to see you again." "Commander," she replied. "We need to discuss these resource surveys your people are conducting." "Ah, yes. Routine security measures? Nothing for you to be concerned about." Chun sat down across from him. "Vexler, we've fought together for 3 years. We've saved each other's lives. Don't treat me like a stranger now. What are your people really doing on our worlds?" The alien was quiet for a long moment. His black eyes studied her face like he was trying to decide something important. "Sarah," he said, using her first name like he had during the war, "the galaxy is more complicated than it was when we were just fighting the Zerathi. There are many factors to consider now." "What factors?" "The other species in the coalition are nervous about humans. You have spread to 37 worlds in just 50 years. Your population grows faster than any other intelligent species we know. Some of our allies wonder if humans might become a problem in the future." Chung felt anger building in her chest. "A problem? We just helped you win a war that saved the entire galaxy." "Yes, and we are grateful, but gratitude and caution are not opposites. Your species has shown remarkable ability to adapt and grow. The surveys are simply to help us understand human expansion patterns. You could have asked us for that information. We have nothing to hide." Vexler's expression became even more distant. "Perhaps, but independent verification is always wise." Chun stood up. "Commander, I've known you for 3 years. This isn't like you. What's really going on?" For a moment, something that looked like regret crossed the alien's face. Then it was gone, replaced by the cold official mask. "Nothing is going on, Admiral. The Coalition is simply being thorough in our security arrangements. I suggest you focus on your patrol duties and leave policy matters to the Council." Xiang left the meeting with more questions than answers. That night she called Davis to her quarters. "I want you to start monitoring Calthrin communications," she told him. "Carefully. Don't let them know we're doing it." "Admiral, that could be considered spying on our allies." "Yes, it could. Do it anyway." Over the next 2 weeks, Davis and his team intercepted dozens of Calthrin messages. Most of them were routine military communications, but some were different. These messages used codes that human computers couldn't break, and they were always sent to the Calthrin home system. "Admiral," Davis said during one of their secret meetings, "I think we found something important." He showed her a message that had been sent just after Vexler's meeting with Chun. The words were in the Calthrin language, but their translation computers could handle most of it. "Human Admiral asking questions about surveys. Recommend acceleration of timeline. Biological samples from 7 worlds show expected genetic patterns. Species modification protocols ready for implementation." Chun read the message 3 times before she understood what it meant. Species modification, she whispered. They want to change us. Davis nodded grimly. There's more. We intercepted communications between Calthran commanders and the other coalition species. They're having secret meetings about something called the Stability Doctrine. What's that? We don't know yet. But humans aren't invited to these meetings. Chun felt the world shift around her. Everything she thought she knew about the coalition and humanity's place in it was wrong. The aliens who had saved them from the Zirathi had their own plans for the human race. Keep monitoring, she told Davis, and start making contact with other human commanders. Quietly, we need to know how big this is. What do you think they're planning, Admiral? Chun looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, Calthran? Ships were visiting human colonies and taking samples. Somewhere out there, alien leaders were making decisions about humanity's future without asking humans what they wanted. I don't know, she said, but I don't think we're allies anymore. I think we're specimens. The war against the Zirathi was over, but Chun was beginning to realize that humanity's real fight might just be starting. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and the biggest threat might not be the enemies they could see, but the friends they had trusted. The message arrived at exactly noon, Earth Standard Time. Admiral Sarah Chun was eating lunch in her quarters when every human communication system in the galaxy received the same transmission at the same moment. The sender was Fleet Commander Vexler, but his voice sounded different, official, cold. To all human military and civilian leaders. The Galactic Defense Coalition has completed its review of post-war security arrangements. Effective immediately, all human military forces will be placed under direct coalition oversight. Human colonial governments will be reorganized under the Stability Doctrine. Earth's planetary government will coordinate all future human activities through coalition administrators. Chun dropped her fork. Around her, the ship's alarm systems began to sound. Admiral to the bridge. Lieutenant Davis's voice came through the speakers. Emergency situation. Chun ran to the bridge. When she arrived, she saw something that made her blood turn cold. On the main screen, Calthran's ships surrounded her entire fleet. The same silver vessels that had once fought beside them now had. Their weapons pointed at human ships. How many? Chun asked. 47 Calthran ships, Admiral, Davis replied. His hands shook as he worked his controls. They appeared out of hyperspace 5 minutes ago. They have us completely surrounded. Chun looked at the tactical display. Her fleet had 18 ships. The Calthrans had more than twice that number, and their technology was still better than anything humans had. Admiral Chun, Vexler's voice came through the communications. System, please respond. Chun walked to the communication station. She had spoken to this alien hundreds of times during the war. They had planned battles together. They had celebrated victories together. Now he was pointing guns at her ships. This is Admiral Chun. What is the meaning of this, Commander? Admiral, you and your people have 15 minutes to decide. Accept coalition oversight or face the consequences. Your weapons are no match for ours. Surrender now, and your crews will not be harmed. Vexler, Chun said, using his name instead of his rank. We fought together, we trusted each other. How can you do this? There was a long pause before the alien answered. When he spoke, his voice carried something that might have been sadness. Sarah, you must understand, the galaxy requires order. Humans are too unpredictable, too dangerous. During the war, your chaos was useful against the Zirathi. But peace requires stability. Your species must be managed for the good of all. Managed? Chun felt anger burning in her chest. We're not animals in a zoo. You are a young species. With great potential, but you need guidance. The Coalition has 10,000 years of experience in maintaining galactic peace. Trust us to know what is best. Chun looked around the bridge at her crew. These were good people who had fought and bled for their species. They had families back on Earth and the colonies. They deserved better than this, and if we refuse, she asked, then you will force us to use measures we would prefer to avoid. Admiral, be reasonable. You cannot win this fight. Chun closed her eyes and thought about her daughter Lisa, safe on Mars colony. Or was she safe? Were there Calthran ships around Mars too? Around Earth? Around every human world in the galaxy? I need to consult with my officers, Chun said. You have 10 minutes remaining. Chun turned off the communication system and looked at her senior staff. These men and women had served with her for years. She trusted them with her life. Options? She asked. We could fight, said Commander Walsh, her tactical officer, but we'd lose. Their ships are faster and their shields are stronger. We could surrender, said Lieutenant Commander Torres from Engineering. Maybe try to resist later when we have a better chance. Or we could run, said Davis. Jump to hyperspace and warn the colonies. Chun studied the tactical display. The Calthran ships were positioned perfectly. They had planned this for months, maybe years. Every human fleet in the galaxy was probably facing the same situation right now. How many people know about our discoveries? Chun asked Davis quietly. About the secret meetings and the species modification plans? Maybe 20 officers across the human fleet. We've been very careful. Chun made her decision. It was probably the hardest thing she had ever done. Send a coded message to all human commanders, she said. Tell them about what we learned. Tell them about the stability doctrine and the modification protocols. Make sure they understand what the Calthrans really want. Admiral, Walsh said, if we send that message, they'll know we've been spying on them. Good, Chun replied. I want them to know. I want them to understand that humans don't give up easily. She walked back to the communication station and opened the channel to Vexter. Commander, I have our answer. I am listening. Chun took a deep breath. She thought about all the battles they had fought together, all the times this alien had saved her life, all the trust they had built during 3 years of war. Our answer is no. The silence that followed lasted for 10 seconds. When Vexter spoke again, his voice was completely cold. Admiral, you are making a terrible mistake. Your ships cannot escape. Your weapons cannot hurt us. Surrender now and spare your crews. Commander, Chun replied, during the war you told me that humans were useful because we don't know when to quit. Well, we still don't know when to quit. She turned to her crew. All ships, prepare for combat. Send the warning message to every human world in the galaxy. And someone get me a line to Earth Defense Command. Admiral, Davis said. Earth Defense Command isn't answering. I think the Calthrans got there first. Chun felt her heart sink, but she didn't let it show on her face. Then we'll have to hope someone else can carry the message. The first Calthran energy beam hit the starboard side of her ship. The impact threw everyone to the floor. Emergency lights flashed as systems overloaded. Return fire. Chun ordered. Her ships fought back with everything they had. Human weapons, upgraded with Calthran technology during the war, struck back at their former allies. For a few minutes, the battle was almost even, but only for a few minutes. The Calthrans had been preparing for this fight much longer than the humans had. Their ships moved in perfect coordination while the human fleet was scattered and confused. One by one, human vessels began to fall. Chun watched the destroyer Hartford explode in a ball of fire. The cruiser Tokyo went dark after taking multiple hits. Her own ship shook under constant bombardment. Hull breach on decks 7 and 8, Torres reported. Life support failing in Section C. Admiral, Walsh said, we're down to 6 ships. We can't hold them much longer. Chun looked at the tactical display. 6 ships against 40. The math was simple and brutal. Did the warning message get through? She asked Davis. Yes, Admiral, at least some of it. I detected transmission confirmations from 12 different human outposts before we lost communications, Chun nodded. That would have to be enough. All ships, she said into the fleet communication system. This is Admiral Chun. We knew this day might come. We knew that freedom always costs more than slavery. Today we pay that price. Make them remember why they needed us to win their war. Another energy beam hit the bridge. Control panels exploded in showers of sparks. Chun felt something warm running down her face and realized she was bleeding. "Admiral," Vexler's voice came through the damaged communication system. "This is your last chance. Surrender now." Chun wiped blood from her eyes and smiled. "Commander, go to hell." The final barrage came from all directions at once. Chun's ship broke apart like a toy thrown against a wall. As the bridge tore open and space rushed in, her last thought was of her daughter Lisa. She hoped Lisa would remember that some things were worth dying for. Captain Marcus Torres floated in the darkness of the asteroid field and watched the Calthran patrol ships pass by. His small fighter was powered down, cold and silent like a piece of space junk. The aliens flew past without noticing him, their silver hulls glinting in the distant starlight. Torres had been hiding for 3 months now. 3 months since Admiral Chun died fighting the betrayers. 3 months since Earth surrendered without firing a shot. 3 months since humanity learned what the stability doctrine really meant. The Calthrans had moved fast after Chun's warning message reached the human colonies. Most worlds gave up immediately when they saw the alien fleets in their skies. Earth's government signed the surrender papers within 6 hours. They said it was to save lives. Torres called it cowardice, but not everyone had given up. Admiral Chun's final message had reached enough people to start something the Calthrans hadn't expected. A resistance. Torres checked his oxygen levels. 2 hours remaining. That was enough time to reach the hidden base on asteroid 247, if the base was still there. If the Calthrans hadn't found it yet, he powered up his engines and flew deeper into the asteroid field. The rocks here were big enough to hide a small fleet and dense enough to confuse alien sensors. It was a perfect place for humans who refused to surrender. The base was still there. Torres felt relief wash over him as he saw the familiar shape of the converted mining station. Lights glowed in its windows, and human ships were docked to its outer hull. The Human Liberation Front was still alive. Torres docked his fighter and made his way to the command center. The base had been built inside a hollowed-out asteroid, with tunnels and chambers carved from solid rock. It wasn't pretty, but it was hidden, and it was theirs. Marcus. Commander Lisa Chun smiled when she saw him enter the briefing room. She looked like her mother, with the same determined eyes and stubborn jaw. "How did the scouting mission go?" Torres had known Lisa since she was a child. He had served under her mother for 5 years and watched Lisa grow up on military bases across human space. When Admiral Chun died, Lisa had taken her mother's place as the leader of the resistance. "The news isn't good," Torres said. He pulled up a holographic display showing the star map. Red markers showed Calthran-controlled systems. Blue markers showed free human territory. There was a lot more red than blue. "They've taken New Texas and the Hoffman system," Torres reported. "That's 40 million more humans under alien control." Lisa studied the map. At 25 years old, she was too young to be leading a war. But the resistance didn't have many experienced officers left. Most of them had died with the regular fleet or been captured when the colonies surrendered. "What about our people?" "On those worlds?" she asked. "Some escaped before the occupation began, others went underground, but most are trapped." Torres called up another display, this one showing intercepted Calthran communications. The text was translated from the alien language, but the meaning was clear enough. "They're starting the modification programs," Torres said quietly. "The aliens are taking human children from their families. They say it's for education, but we know what they're really doing." Lisa read the reports in silence. The Calthrans were using technology stolen from the Zirathi to change human biology. They wanted to make humans more obedient, more predictable, easier to control. The process worked best on young children whose brains were still developing. "How many children?" Lisa asked. 10,000 so far, maybe more." Lisa closed her eyes. Torres could see her mother's strength in the way she held herself together when everything was falling apart. "We have to stop this," she said. "How? We have maybe 500 ships total. The Calthrans have thousands. We can't fight them in. Open battle." Lisa opened her eyes and Torres saw something dangerous there. Something that reminded him of Admiral Chun's final broadcast. "Then we don't fight them in open battle." We fight them the way humans have always fought when we're outnumbered. Over the next few weeks, the character of the war changed completely. The Human Liberation Front stopped trying to defend territory and started attacking everywhere at once. Small groups of human fighters hit Calthran supply convoys and disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. Hidden bases launched surprise attacks on alien installations and vanished back into asteroid fields or empty space. The key was unpredictability. The Calthrans were used to fighting organized opponents who followed logical patterns. Human guerrilla tactics drove them crazy because they never knew where the next attack would come from. Torres led one of the most successful units. His team had captured a Calthran research station and discovered something that changed everything. The aliens had been studying captured Zirathi technology, including the hive mind control systems that the bug aliens had used to coordinate their attacks. "Look at this," Dr. Sarah Kim said as she showed Torres the alien data files. Kim had been a xenobiologist before the war. Now she was the Resistance's expert on alien technology. The Calthrans have been reverse engineering Zirathi neural networks. They're planning to use them to control human minds directly. Torres stared at the technical diagrams. He didn't understand all the science, but he understood the implications. "They want to turn us into puppets?" he said. "Worse than that. They want to make us think being puppets is a good idea." Torres made a decision that would have shocked his younger self. "Can we use this technology against them?" Dr. Kim looked surprised. "You want to use mind control?" "Not on humans. On the Calthrans, fight fire with fire." Kim studied the data. For a long moment, it might be possible. The Zirathi systems were designed to work on any intelligent species, but it would take months to modify them for use against Calthran biology. Then we better get started. The breakthrough came 6 months later. Dr. Kim's team had modified a Zirathi control device to work on Calthran nervous systems. The first test was conducted on a captured alien officer, and the results were beyond what anyone had hoped for. The device didn't just control the alien's actions. It let human operators see through his eyes, hear through his ears, and access his memories. For the first time since the war began, humans had a way to spy on their enemies from the inside. But the real surprise came when they tested the device on multiple aliens at once. Just like the Zirathi had done during their war, the modified system could link multiple minds together into a coordinated network. Suddenly, resistance cells across the galaxy could coordinate their attacks in perfect synchronization. The Calthrans had spent months trying to predict human tactics. Now they faced something they hadn't prepared for. Humans who could think and act as one unified force when they needed to, but who could also break apart into unpredictable individual units at a moment's notice. "It's working," Lisa reported, during a secret conference with resistance leaders across human space. "Our coordinated attacks have destroyed 3 major alien supply depots this week. They're starting to pull ships back to defend their home systems." Torres felt hope for the first time in months. "What about the modification programs?" "We've rescued over 2,000 children from alien facilities. The underground networks are getting stronger on every occupied world." But the real victory came when they intercepted a message from the Calthran High Command to their fleet commanders. The aliens were starting to doubt whether occupying human space was worth the cost. "Human resistance has exceeded all projections," the message read. "Recommend strategic withdrawal to core systems until more permanent solutions can be implemented." Lisa smiled when she read those words. It was the same smile her mother had worn when she faced impossible odds. "They're learning the same lesson. Everyone learns when they fight humans," she said. "We don't know when to quit." The war was far from over, but for the first time since the betrayal began, humanity was winning. Captain Marcus Torres stood on the bridge of the Liberation ship Indomitable and stared at the massive space station floating before them. The Nexus was the heart of the Galactic Defense Coalition, a city-sized structure where representatives from 12 alien species made decisions about the fate of billions of people. Today, humanity was going to make their own decision. "All ships report ready, Captain," Lieutenant Parker said from his station. The young officer had joined the resistance after his home colony was occupied. Like most of the crew, he had lost everything to the Calthran betrayal. Torres looked at the tactical display. 200 human ships surrounded the Nexus. It was every vessel the Human Liberation Front could gather, from captured alien warships to converted cargo haulers. Some were barely holding together, kept running by spare parts and determination. Against them, the Calthrans had deployed their home fleet. 500 silver ships, each one more advanced than anything humanity had built. The odds were terrible, but Torres had learned something important during the war. Sometimes winning wasn't about having better weapons. Sometimes it was about being willing to pay a price your enemy wouldn't pay. Commander Chun, are your teams in position? Torres asked into his communication device. Lisa Chun's voice came back clear and strong. She was leading the assault teams. That would board the station while the fleet kept the Calthran ships busy. Ready to go, Marcus. Remember, we only have one shot at this. Torres nodded. The plan was simple and desperate. While the human fleet fought the Calthran navy, small teams would penetrate the Nexus and destroy its command center. If they could, cut off the coalition's ability to coordinate their forces. Resistance movements across the galaxy might have a chance to break free. Attention coalition vessels, Torres broadcast on all frequencies. This is Captain Torres of the Human Liberation Front. We demand the immediate release of all human prisoners and the withdrawal of occupation forces from our worlds. The response came from Fleet Commander Vexler himself. The alien's voice was as cold as the space between stars. Captain Torres, you are vastly outnumbered. Surrender now and your crews will be spared. Torres thought about Admiral Chun dying in the wreckage of her ship rather than surrender. He thought about the thousands of human children taken from their families for genetic modification. He thought about his own daughter, somewhere on occupied Earth, growing up under alien rule. Commander Vexler, Torres replied, we learned something fighting beside you during the HFY War. We learned that some things are worth dying for. Freedom is one of them. You cannot win this battle, Vexler said. We have superior numbers. And technology, maybe, Torres answered. But we also learned something else. Sometimes the best way to win is to make victory cost more than your enemy is willing to pay. Torres cut the communication and turned to his crew. All ships attack. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships threw themselves at the Calthran fleet with reckless courage. They used ramming attacks, suicide runs, and desperate boarding actions. For every human vessel destroyed, they took at least one alien ship with them. The Calthrans had expected a traditional space battle with long-range weapons and careful maneuvering. Instead, they faced opponents who acted like berserkers, closing to point-blank range and fighting with weapons, tools, and bare hands when necessary. Hull breach on Deck 5, Parker reported as enemy fire tore through the Indomitable. We're losing atmosphere. Seal it off and keep fighting, Torres ordered. Around them, the bridge filled with smoke and sparks flew from overloaded systems on the tactical display. Torres watched human ships break through the Calthran defensive lines. The converted cargo ship New Hope exploded against a Calthran battlecruiser, taking both vessels out of the fight. The destroyer Vengeance rammed an alien command ship at full speed, crippling both vessels. Lisa, you're clear to go, Torres said into his communicator. On our way, Lisa replied through the chaos of battle. Small human assault craft darted toward the Nexus. The station's defensive systems fired at them. But most of the alien ships were too busy fighting the main fleet to provide support. Torres watched the assault teams reach the station and disappear into its docking bays. Now everything depended on Lisa and her people. The fleet could only buy them so much time. Captain, Parker called out, Commander Vexler's ship is moving toward us. Torres looked at the display. The Calthran flagship, a massive vessel twice the size of any human ship, was cutting through the battle toward them. Its weapons glowed with deadly energy. He wants to settle this personally, Torres said. Let him come. The two ships closed on each other like ancient warriors meeting for single combat. Energy beams and missile volleys filled the space between them. The Indomitable shook under the impact of alien weapons, but Torres kept his ship moving forward. "We're taking heavy damage," Parker reported. "Shields are down to 10%. Keep us moving toward their ship," Torres ordered. "And prepare the boarding pods." "Sir, boarding an enemy flagship is suicide," Torres smiled grimly. "Lieutenant, everything we've done for the past 2 years has been suicide. That's why it keeps working." Meanwhile, inside the Nexus, Lisa Chun and her assault team fought their way through the station's corridors. The artificial gravity was wrong for humans, and the air smelled like metal and ozone. Alien security forces tried to stop them, but the humans had advantages the defenders didn't expect. The modified Zerathi technology that Dr. Kim had developed let the assault teams coordinate perfectly. Each human fighter knew exactly where every other fighter was and what they were doing. They moved like parts of a single organism, but an organism that could think and adapt faster than any artificial intelligence. "Command center is 2 levels up," Lisa said as her team reached a junction. "Security teams are trying to cut us off, but we can go through the maintenance shafts." The humans moved through the station like they had built it themselves. Every time the aliens tried to predict their movements, the assault teams did something unexpected. They used service corridors, emergency exits, and even garbage chutes to stay ahead of their pursuers. Back in space, Torres brought his crippled ship alongside Vexthor's flagship. The two vessels were so close their hulls almost touched. Through the armored windows of the enemy bridge, Torres could see the tall blue figure of his former ally. "Launch boarding pods," Torres ordered, the last thing the Calthran commander expected was for damaged human ships to board his vessel. But that was exactly what Torres did. While Vexthor's crew tried to figure out how to respond to boarders, Lisa reached the Nexus Command Center. The room was huge, filled with holographic displays showing coalition forces across the galaxy. Representatives from alien species watched, in shock as human fighters burst through the doors. "Nobody move," Lisa ordered, pointing her weapon at the central control console. "We're going to send a message." She activated the emergency broadcast system that connected to every coalition world. Across thousands of star systems, the same transmission began to play. "This is Commander Lisa Chun of the Human Liberation Front. The Calthran occupation of human space ends today. To all resistance movements, all occupied peoples, all beings who value freedom, the time has come to take back what is ours." As her message spread across the galaxy, Torres fought his way through the Calthran flagship toward the bridge. Enemy soldiers tried to stop him, but nothing could stop a man who had already decided to sacrifice everything for his cause. Torres reached the bridge just as explosions began tearing through the Nexus Command Center. Lisa had completed her mission and set off the charges that would cripple the Coalition's ability to coordinate their forces. Through the smoke and flames, Torres saw Vexthor waiting for him. The alien commander held no weapon. He simply stood there looking tired and old. "Why?" Vexthor asked. "We offered your species peace and prosperity. We would have guided you to greatness." Torres thought about that for a moment. "Because we'd rather be free and wrong than slaves and right." The explosion that destroyed the Nexus lit up space like a new star. The blast crippled both fleets, but it sent a message that traveled faster than light to every corner of the galaxy. Humanity would never surrender. No matter the cost, no matter the odds, they would keep fighting for their freedom. Within days, rebellions broke out on dozens of worlds. The Coalition, leaderless and confused, began to fall apart. The Calthrans, faced with galaxy-wide revolt, and their command structure destroyed, retreated to their home systems. The war was over, but more importantly, humanity had proven something that would be remembered for 1,000 years. Freedom was worth any price, and some spirits could never be broken.